A broad, strange places hook fits the channel's digital mystery framing only when it's treated as a doorway into web history archives or online artifacts, not physical geography. One of the strangest places the old web ever built was a city made of home pages. GeoCities did not just give people web space, it sorted them into neighborhoods with names that sounded like destinations: Heartland for family pages, Hollywood for entertainment, Area 51 for science fiction, and the paranormal. To visit was to wander a map of interests, hobbies, fan shrines, guest books, blinking text, MIDI music, and personal introductions, written for strangers. What we know is fairly grounded. GeoCities became one of the defining free web hosting services of the 1990s. Yahoo acquired it, and the main American service was shut down in 2009. Volunteers and public web archives preserved portions of it, but not all of it. The result is not a complete city, it is a set of rescued streets, broken signs and rooms where the lights still flicker. What people noticed years later was how physical it felt. These pages were not designed like modern profiles. They felt like rooms someone decorated by hand. A background texture could be wallpaper, a counter could be a doorbell, a guest book could be the only trace that anyone had passed through. What remains unclear is the full shape of the lost city. Many pages vanished before they could be saved. Some were abandoned long before shutdown. Some survive only as fragments without images, music, or links. The simpler explanation is not a conspiracy. It is scale neglect, changing ownership, and the belief that personal web pages were disposable. But that is why GeoCities feels haunted. It preserves the moment when the internet was less a feed and more a neighborhood. People actually tried to live inside. And the next strange place was not made of pages. It was made of rooms, avatars, and silence. If GeoCities turned homepages into streets, the palace turned chat into a building you could walk through in the mid-1990s. The palace offered something that still feels oddly futuristic. Instead of a plain chat window, users entered illustrated rooms. They wore small custom avatars, often called props. They moved around a scene, spoke in bubbles, and gathered in lounges, fan spaces, art rooms, and private little corners of the web. What we know is that the palace was a real graphical chat platform tied to the early commercial internet and later kept alive by enthusiasts. It belonged to a period when nobody was sure what online social life should look like. Was it a message board, a cartoon lobby, a tiny metaverse before that word became fashionable? What made it strange was the feeling of place. A room might contain nothing more than a background image and a few silent avatars, but it still felt occupied. People made identities from clipped images, inside jokes, and rooms that only regulars understood. For some users, this was not a novelty. It was where friendships formed, where fandoms gathered, and where the internet first felt social in a visual way. Then the web moved on. Browsers changed, operating systems changed, companies shifted focus. The official center of gravity faded, and the surviving pieces became scattered across fan pages, archived installers' memories, and small servers maintained by people who simply did not want it to vanish. What remains unclear is not whether the palace existed, it did. The unclear part is the complete social history inside it. Most conversations were never meant to be permanent. Many rooms were temporary. The culture lived in jokes, images, and timing that archives struggle to preserve. The safest reading is this: the palace did not disappear because it was sinister. It faded because digital places age quickly when the tools around them stop fitting, and when a place is made of presence, absence becomes the mystery. The third strange place looked less like an ancient ruin and more like a future that arrived too early. In 2008, Google launched Lively, a browser-based virtual world where people could create rooms, decorate them, invite others in, and appear as animated avatars. It was not the open web of GeoCities, and not the handmade underground feeling of the palace. It was a polished experiment from a major internet company released during a time when social platforms, chat widgets, and virtual identities were all competing to define what online presence meant. What we know is simple. Lively existed. It let users build social rooms and embed them in web pages. It was shut down the same year it launched, with Google publicly framing the closure around focusing resources elsewhere. That makes it unusually clean as an internet mystery, because the basic timeline is not hidden. So why does it still feel strange? Because it resembles an alternate branch of the web. Imagine if personal pages had evolved into rooms instead of profiles. Imagine if blogs carried tiny apartments beside their posts. Imagine if the social internet had become a set of decorated spaces before the feed became the dominant shape. What remains unclear is emotional rather than technical. How many small communities might have formed there if it had lasted? Would it have become a forgotten niche or a blueprint? People rediscovered later under different names. Those questions are interesting, but they are not evidence of a hidden story. The available evidence suggests a simpler explanation. Lively was an experiment in online place, at a moment when the broader internet was choosing speed, simplicity, and feeds. It did not need a dramatic ending to become eerie. It only needed to vanish from everyday memory. Together, these three places show the same pattern. The internet keeps building rooms, neighborhoods, and worlds. Then the platforms change, the doors close, and the maps become folklore. And the archive is not the place itself. It is only the echo,